Renovating Retirement with Charlie Jewett. Oh no, I think I'm about to have another episode.
Hey everybody, Charlie Jewett here. Welcome back to Renovating Retirement, the podcast, the movement, the life-changing stuff, right? I've got a great guest on the show today who I've interviewed before, but it was in the dark ages. It was in the early days when I recorded only on Stone. Actually, I recorded on a laptop in Wally's truck. It was awesome. We were looking at the beach and some homeless people and the place that I used to shower while sleeping on a boat. It was great. This is episode 149. We're going to talk about being a person of abundance. And this is really important, Wally, because the group that I work with has some unique challenges. But why don't we introduce you? Wally Carmichael used to live in Hawaii, right? So that's why I saw you. And although I don't know you from the fact that I went to Hawaii, I actually know you from John Lee Dumas and Podcaster's Paradise, where they paired us up as kind of a what do they call that? A mentoring group?
Yeah, like accountability partners. And there was supposed to be 3 of us, but 1 dropped out.
Exactly. We had 1 dud and then 2 superstars.
Absolutely. Yeah, match made in heaven, man.
I know. How rude.
Paradise, I should
call her a dud. That's just rude. She probably has a podcast 19 times the size of us and we don't even know it.
Probably.
So we met through Podcaster's Paradise, the accountability groups, and turns out you were living in Hawaii at that time. And so we actually got to meet in person, get together, interview each other on each other's podcasts. Now, you were I actually think the reason I was recording in your truck was because you hadn't started yet. And I'm like, well, let me show you the very little that I know, you know what I mean, on my 5th episode or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah, now, that's absolutely correct, man. I was a baby.
Tell me about your podcast, kind of what your vision was when you started. Has it changed, what it's morphed into, who's responding, and kind of where you've ended up today so people know who you are?
Oh, Lord. Yeah, it's changed dramatically. My vision initially was to have a 3-day-a-week show, 2 interview session, and then basically a pay it forward Aloha Friday. Heck, I can't even remember exactly the structure of when it first got started, but I had huge vision, huge goals for the thing. And the reason why I started it was really just to have conversations with other men primarily, but I ended up having a lot of conversations with women as well who are living a life of abundance and somehow paying it forward to their community, in some cases the world. So I created this platform because I knew in order to have conversations with some of the people that I wanted to have conversations with, I'd have to create an audience for them. So I started the show, and you was number 5 that I had a conversation with for the show. And it really just took on a life of its own, turned into a full-blown coaching business, and currently downloaded in 88 countries around the world, and 251 episodes will drop today.
Oh my goodness. You're ahead of me, man. You're killing me.
How'd that happen?
I don't know. But you, that's awesome, man. Congratulations first. So your show is called Men of Abundance, right?
Correct.
And I remember you telling me, and I said when I wanted to interview for the show, like, we're going to do people of abundance or how to be a person of abundance, because everything you're teaching, I mean, I'm sure it's not 100% specific, to men, like, well, if you have the right chromosomes, go. It's just basically talking about being a person of abundance, but you picked a niche, right? You picked the gender that's yours and that you understand. Mm-hmm. And I've heard you say that you have a lot of women who are listening to the show, right?
Yeah, about 50%, 50% are ladies.
That's crazy.
I'm digging it.
That is really cool. They're trying to find out how to find a good man, right? They're
trying to find men of abundance.
Hey, come on now. It's morphed.
But they're sticking around, man.
It's morphed into a coaching program, a dating website. It's awesome. It is interesting how
it might get there. Who knows?
It's interesting how these podcasts take on a life of their own. When we start with a vision, we throw them out there, and then people grab them, and who they refer them to and who listens and who doesn't, we have no control over that. What ends up happening is the market we find out who likes it and what they want, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And one of the things that people like JLD and many other, people in business in general, when you're starting a business, one of the things they say as a creator putting out content is listen to your audience. They will tell you what they want, and then create that for them and monetize it. And that's basically what has happened.
Right. And the monetize it isn't selfish. It's saying, like, this is something of value people want, but we have to be able to continue to pay to do it and to survive, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And then on top of that, if you provide stuff to people for free, which I refer to as freeple, I picked that up along the way somewhere, they do nothing with it. They literally just put it on the shelf and kick it around a little bit. They have no respect for it whatsoever. So I take that personally because I put my time into creating that for them. I give it to them and they do nothing with it. So
Yeah.
you got to monetize it and got to have money in the skin in the game to do something with it.
Exactly. Well, it's definitely a labor of love. I mean, you and I have both poured multiple, hundreds, thousands of hours into recording and then recording and realizing it wasn't recording and re-recording and all that mess, right?
Literally just happened last night, man. It still happens.
Sorry, man.
From time to time. No, I recovered, but because I have a team now. So some team people that I have working on some stuff. So it was easily recovered. And 2 years ago, I would have thrown a freaking hissy fit. One, because of who I was, and now I'm just in a bunch. I'm, whatever. I'm aloha dude, kick back. But I knew it could get fixed, and if not, we'd just redo it. Whatever.
I have not even shared this with my audience yet, although it's on my list of titles. Do you know anything about Byron Katie or what's called The Work at thework.com?
That does not sound familiar at this time.
You've got to go look at thework.com and watch some of her videos or read her book. Write this down. Read her book, Loving What Is. Byron Katie, Loving What Is the book. I'm listening to it on Audible for the third time. Thework.com to watch her consult with people for free. Tons of videos, like hundreds of them. Nobody's had a greater effect on my life, peacefulness, and joy than Byron Katie. And I learned about her through Tony Robbins. And my audience knows I'm in the middle of what's supposed to be a 7-part series on Tony Robbins' book, Money, Master the Game.
Mm-hmm.
But I keep running into problems because step 4 is 550 pages.
No, I know. I've got the book, and I've got the audio.
I'm like wading my way through this. I'm like, I need to read all of them to summarize them and do a Cliff Notes podcast episode, right? But I am completely different as well from a year ago or 2 years ago because of the work, basically because of Byron Katie and the peace that comes from just like embracing reality and understanding that a lot of things like should, shouldn't, could, couldn't, they're damaging words, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
There's just reality and you fight it and suffer, or you embrace it and have an incredibly peaceful, amazing life. All right, rabbit trail. Let me go really personal with you, like really personal, so personal that you might ask me to remove this. And then we'll talk about what abundance is, okay?
Absolutely.
I believe, this is ironic because you're a podcaster and probably a lot of the coaching you do is not in person, but it's virtual, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And I believe at one point early in our relationship, you mentioned that you didn't like your voice. Is that true?
That is, I had completely forgot about that because that was a fact. And indeed, that was one of my biggest hangups for starting a podcast.
That is so interesting to me. And it takes a lot of courage, right? And your vision must have been, honestly, like people who are afraid to be public speakers don't tend to go be public speakers, right? It's people like me who can't shut the heck up and just need to blab at somebody.
And you got that awesome radio voice.
It's renovating.
You don't have a radio face,
I have a face for radio. So congratulations on pushing through that. I will say you have an awesome voice because it's unique. And I watch a ton of like The Voice and American Idol and America's Got Talent, all these shows, right? And one of the cool things they're always saying to people is like, your voice is so recognizable, or they're like, I love what do they call it? The grit or the Nick Nolte or whatever. They'll say to somebody who has a unique voice, they love and you have a unique and recognizable voice. So whatever maybe you didn't like in the past, I actually think is an asset for you. And I just wanted to tell you that.
I appreciate that. It's really cool because I've had listeners tell me that and say one lady that she was like, Wally, your voice just is really cool, soothing. And I was like, what? Okay, cool.
Exactly.
I'll take that.
Exactly. It's awesome. It's really cool. Okay, so let's talk about first. Can you give me your definition? Like, what did you mean by abundance? You named the show Men of Abundance, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe a little risky because the person reading it doesn't know exactly what you mean at first, right? But
correct.
It's like, I don't know what Google meant. I don't know what Yahoo meant or Amazon as opposed to like a jungle, right? But those groups went out and branded it and told us what it meant, right?
Right.
What do you mean by abundance, being a person of abundance?
Well, and then other people even have their own definition of abundance. And for some people, it's religious based. And I get that question once in a while. Is it religious based? No, and it's not. Well, I'm a man of faith. Men of Abundance is not a religious based podcast. And for me, it literally just means that I have everything, all the resources that I personally need for my well-being. And I am able to pay it forward and share my resources, my treasures, talents, and time with others.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't always equate to money. In fact, in my world, in my definition, while abundance does include money, it's not exclusive around money. It's around relationships. It's around time. It's around connections. It's around other resources, education, the ability to travel, the ability to allow other people and give other people opportunities to live their best life. And that's basically what it, in a nutshell, what it really means to me.
And as I mentioned, I'm in the middle of this, the PDF of Tony Robbins' book is 1,127 pages. I think the printed version is like 650 or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a monster. But, one of the things Tony Robbins teaches is the 6 essential needs. And the 6th one, I believe, is giving, right? He
Correct.
says he's been in 100 countries, and he found that there's all these, no matter where you're from, you have these 6 essential needs: certainty, uncertainty, blah, blah, blah. A part of having an amazing life, or if you go back and do quote something religious, it's better to give than receive or whatever. A part of having an amazing life, or one of the things that brings a lot more abundance and joy to life, is actually the giving of either of your, let's just call it resources, whether it's time or money. So for instance, I can make the same money I did 3 or 4 years ago working 20 or 25 hours a week instead of the 50 or 60 when I was all alone and in a building phase, because of what you mentioned. I have a team and we're more established and I've become more efficient and all that. And having more time to do things I love feels very abundant to me. I mean, this morning I walked with a weighted vest. I don't know why I only talk to you when I'm on a getting in shape kick. It's not on purpose. It's just like something about you. You have like the in shape vibe going on, right? So I am. You don't know this, but I was pushing like 247 pounds at 5'10", turning 47 this month, and wasn't fitting my clothes. Feel like crap, right? I had blown my ACL, so it doesn't feel great on the knee to be heavy, right? Through just some, eating like meat and vegetables, cutting out carbs, basically. I'd been able to get down to about 235, but like I started a 21-day like intensive 6 days ago, where I'm blending like all of the things I know about: intermittent fasting, diet, cutting out alcohol and sugars. I'm like doing crazy amounts of exercise. So anyway, I walked this morning with a weighted vest, 20 minutes to my gym, did a 30-minute leg and shoulder workout, walked 20 minutes back, which after the leg workout, having the weighted vest on was pretty brutal, right? Walked back, and I could never do that. I mean, it took me from like 8:30 to 10 to do the whole thing, right? I could never do that if I couldn't decide how to spend my time. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, time is where I spend my time, and who you spend your time with is extremely important.
And you and
It's
I,
like top of my list.
like, you lived in Hawaii. Now you're in Florida, right?
Correct.
So you lived in Hawaii, and I went there every month for 10 years and have team members who live there full time. Hawaii is a place where you see that as well. The locals value the beach and the ocean and nature so much that they kind of learn from childhood that time is more important than money. And a lot of them don't have huge incomes, but they'll stop in the middle of the day and go surfing for 2 hours if the waves are popping.
Exactly. Yeah,
right?
They really got that in perspective.
And I think they have a better perspective to some degree than we do here, where there's something just as beautiful as catching a wave. If you live in Oregon or Florida, it may be something different, right? But people don't prioritize it the same way. So it could be time, it could be money. Let's talk a bit about why I asked you to come on the show, because one of the dangers for the person entering retirement is that they kind of shut down their life and do too little, right? You gain all of this freedom, right? You're not going to work anymore, but if you think about getting up, getting ready, commuting, working, commuting home, and then possibly showering or whatever, like wind down. I mean, that could be like 8, 9, 10, 11 hours of your day, and you're only awake for 15 or 16 or whatever, right? This is most of what they did in their life. All right, Friday you quit your job. They have the party, you have the cake, flyers and streamers, woo, right? You wake up Monday in your house, nothing to do, right? And it doesn't happen to everybody, but one of the things we know is emotionally that's not good for you. It's not good physically. Your brain starts to die. Your body starts to die. You're moving a lot less unless you move on purpose, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that way, but people probably need to be a little bit more purposeful to not just sit on the couch and watch Netflix all day. They need to say, I just gained 40, 50 hours a week. What's my plan? How do I live a life of, does that make sense to you?
It makes perfect sense to me, man. Listen, one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is the military, active duty military, is healthier than the general population. But the retired military community is less healthy than the general population, like within a year of the individual retiring or less. Because of that, many just get out, and this isn't as much currently. Some of my peers literally are just watching the grass grow, and I feel for them. But the bottom line is this: you just have to stay active. You have to keep your mind active. You have to keep your body moving, and you can't just sit and watch the grass grow because, planes decay when they're sitting on the ground, and when they're in flight, the more they're in flight, they stay. They don't decay. They maintain their integrity. It's the same with our bodies. If you like analogies, there's one for you.
Yeah, I do. I have a whole show called Some Helpful Analogies. That's all I did. The entire show was analogies. I love analogies. That's a really good one because you do see that. If an abandoned house or a plane that's never used or a car sits too long, what happens? The bees move into the car, right? The plane rusts. The house starts to get weathered and rusted and falls. It's the nature of the way things are, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned Byron Katie. She always says that's the way of it. There is no right and wrong. It's just the way of it, right?
Yeah.
You have to keep using. Now the person let's say the person I help retire, but they don't have enough income, so they have to do something else. They've got to drive for Uber. They've got to do Airbnb. They've got to have a part-time job. They have to do consulting, whatever. They're kind of forced to stay active, and it's not as big a deal for them. The risk isn't there. It's the person that I help to retire really well, where they retire with the exact same income they had Friday, they have it on Monday, right?
Yeah.
And now they're like, I don't have to do anything. And it's okay. Like, you should have your party phase. You know what I mean? Like, do nothing for a month or 2 months or 3 months or whatever, or like go hiking, whatever. There will come a time where you're like, now what, right? Now, some people with really big families, they don't have this issue. I've talked to people that retire and they're like, man, I'm busier than when I worked because my family gives me all these honeydews. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so they're
exactly.
just doing all this stuff. But if you had like no kids or unmarried, things like that, what I really want to talk about is, what does an abundant life look like in retirement where you now have more time than almost anybody on the planet? And that's an amazing resource, right? And you could give that only to yourself, or you could give that to yourself and to others. It seems that it's a more joyful life when you're giving to others, right?
Yeah.
And the money piece too, because a lot of people listening to my show are hearing me say, you can have 20, 30, 40% more income. And even if you don't need it, get it anyway. And let's solve world hunger, because I figured out how to solve world hunger in, a year or whatever. If I worked with enough people, the current estimate is only $30 billion a year. I could work with a certain number of people, increase their income by 20, 30%. We could pay for the entire $30 billion a year just with wasted money that we're not getting right now that people are due, right? Even through just Social Security maximization and tax planning, we could solve world hunger, because the IRS publishes every year how much people overpaid on their taxes as a total, which I didn't even know, right? So a life of abundance in retirement, how would you picture that?
Well, I've been fortunate to actually go through that twice now. When I retired from the military, from active duty after 25 years, I took about 4 months and did absolutely nothing. And it was partly by choice initially. And then it was like, okay, I'm living in Hawaii. I need to get my butt back to work and make some money so I can stay in Hawaii.
Yeah. Yep.
But now that I've moved, now that I quit that job, and I got a good job and I was doing very well. And when we did that for about 3 years now, when we decided to move to Florida, I'm retired again. Now I don't have to work at all. And it's just it's unbelievable, but it has a lot to do with things that I've done in my past. Somebody asked me the other day, what do you do to live your lifestyle? It's not what I do, it's what I did.
Yeah.
They put me to where I'm at. And, that fits right in line with what you do as well for setting up retirement and getting it done right, getting out of debt, getting the right retirement, getting, all that stuff, the right insurance. So you don't have to worry about if something happens to you, if you're the only one having income coming in, for instance. So the way my life looks now is I get up in the morning, I ride my bike with my son to his school just down the street. I go to the fitness center, work out, maybe get a swim in, sit on the next to the lake, do my meditation and my prayers, come home, make breakfast and coffee for my wife and I, and maybe we'll go catch a movie or we'll go drive down to Epcot or, we stay active. I travel. We're taking a road trip this summer. But I'm also active in the community. My community here just asked me to be on the board of, the complainers here in the community.
Board of complainers.
That's what I call it. The board of handling all the complaints in the community, basically. And because I see I'm active in the community in our local Facebook group, and I'm always walking around and picking up stuff and talking to people and everything. So, and I'm not even old, man. I turned 50 the 5th of May.
Oh my goodness.
A couple weeks at the time of this recording. So, and that was one of my bucket list goals, actually, to be fully retired by the time I was 50.
Well, let me ask you this question.
Actually, it was 30 at first, and then after I passed 30, we'll shoot for 40 or 50.
We always have these exaggerated goals, and then we hit the 20-year snooze button on that retirement.
Oops.
50 is pretty good, though. 50 is pretty good to be
great.
self-sufficient and financially free. How important in your financial freedom, right, your life of abundance, is your military pension?
Oh, extremely important.
Because the reason I'm asking is because, for years, not years, decades, okay? For decades, probably since the 70s, certainly since the 80s, the I don't know, 100-pound gorilla, what do you call that? 1,000-pound gorilla, whatever it is. The king of all financial planning was put your money in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds and hope for the best, right? Mm-hmm. And I've spent 14 years now reviewing portfolios and looking at, okay, you want to retire, what's your plan? And the basic financial plan, especially if you come from an Edward Morgan Lynch type name brand mutual fund sales organization, is leave your money in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds and take out an income and kind of hope it works out, right? Mm-hmm. Military pension is guaranteed. It's not like if the stock market does well, you get paid. You're getting paid till you die, right?
Right.
And you know that, and you wake up every morning knowing that, and I'm assuming that creates some level of security and just peace and awesomeness, right?
Yeah, it absolutely does. But and on top of my military pension, I also have my VA disability, which basically is the same as my military pension without getting too much into the dollar figure of it. But the other thing is I've also done things in my past that have affiliate income that's a little bit here and there that helps out as well. But if what would give me real heartache and not let me sleep at night is if something happens to me, then that income goes away from my wife and my family. That's why I make sure that I have the insurance.
You have the life insurance to cover that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a strategy we call pension max, which is, if you're on a single life payout or you choose to take a single life payout because it's higher, that's fine. But make sure you also carry life insurance. So when the income stops, the remaining spouse gets a huge chunk of money that then gets invested into an annuity that pays the same income or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. The reason I'm bringing it up is because a lot of people don't know. They're like, darn it all, I wasn't in the military, or I don't have VA disability, or my employer didn't offer a pension. What a lot of people don't know is that although annuity was a bad word in the 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever, today's annuities have completely changed. And you can just buy you can buy yourself a pension that's just like a military pension. You buy a paycheck. So you can get a pension two ways. Earn it with time, put 25 years into the military or whatever, right? Or you can buy it with money, give $500,000 to a company and they say you can have $30,000 a year every single year for the rest of your life. Now, your military pension, is there some account value associated with it where they're like, hey, it's worth $1 million and it went up 10% this year, or you can just have the million, or is it just a paycheck with no account?
Yeah, it's just a paycheck with no account.
See that? Pension, VA disability, mm-hmm. Social Security, all of them are just annuities with no account. They're just income, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what I need my listeners to understand, because people get scared of annuities because well, what if I give them $500,000 and I don't earn enough money, and when I die, my family only gets $200,000? Well, all the greatest annuities in the world, your family gets nothing. Social Security, pensions, whatever. And that's why I split up financial planning into in case, income, and increase. There's an income piece. Part of having a life of abundance I mean, what would your life be like if you had to worry whether you're going to have an income in 5 years or 10 years?
Oh, I mean, I would be working my butt off to make sure that I, one, had an income still coming in, and saving and everything else, looking at all other, many different avenues of making sure that I had something to sustain me into my, however long I'm going to live, and my family.
Yeah. So let's combine our expertise and come up with a little definition here. A life of abundance, in my opinion, would be don't work longer than you have to if you don't want to. Quit when you can and when you're young enough to travel and enjoy life a little bit, right? Don't wait till your hips are broken and you can't get on a plane. You know what I mean? So retire when you can. Guarantee your income. Don't gamble. Like, have a guaranteed paycheck. And then from your perspective, right? Stay active. Give back. Live a life of abundance as far as giving time and money, right? Anything else you want to add?
Yeah. Even before that, live before you, while you're building that. I'm all about, improving your foxhole on your way to having more, being grateful for what you have today, enjoying what you have today, but enjoy that on your way to having more. Don't wait for retirement, because you never know what's going to happen. And too many people end up on their deathbed, or even trying to still retire, having never taken anything off their bucket list,
right?
Or enjoyed family the way that they should. Nobody sits on their deathbed saying, "I wish I had made more money," and that's just time and time again. You read that over and over and hear that, and I've heard it myself from people that I've watched pass away. But in addition to that, this. Just have everything into perspective. I have the opportunity to talk to so many people who quit 6, even close to 7, high 6-figure corporate jobs for low 6-figure or even low 5-figure income, but their quality of life has dramatically improved because of their lifestyle, because of the stress that's involved with all that stuff. So, yeah, it's just extremely important to just learn how to be grateful for what you have and start living, regardless of what your income level is. But it is important to have that income so that you're not in your 60s, 70s and have to work. That's the terrible thing. That's the whole difference, because I do still, as I mentioned earlier, I have a coaching business that I do, and I select who I want to work with, and I'm very selective about my time, and I don't take on more than I need.
And that's a passion project that happens to be profitable, but you don't have to do it, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
One of my first mentors said this, and tell me if you think this is true. This would be for people who don't listen to your show and don't listen to my show, right? Americans spend their health to gain their wealth, and then they retire and spend their wealth to try to get their health back.
Yeah, terrible.
Right? I feel bad, man. Tim Ferriss's idea of the mini retirements. You know what I mean? Like not doing what you said, not taking time to, how did you say it? It was a military reference, something about the foxhole.
Yeah, improving your foxhole.
Yeah, what would you do if you were retired? Write it out. Okay, go do that for a week. Go do that for 2 weeks on your 2-week vacation or whatever it is, or tell your boss you're going to be gone for a month. You know what I mean?
One of my guests, I loved his terminology, his term for it. He called it, his family has what they call a terminal day. And if any one of the family members would come down terminally ill, what would you do today? And they'll ask one of their 5-year-olds, what would you do today if today was the last day? And this sounds kind of morbid, but they literally just freaking jump on a plane and fly to France or something. They got to do that. Okay. They got a little bit of money. They're in the real estate, or they'll just do something like go ice skating.
Right.
But they'll just take the whole day and just go do it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Weekend. It's really neat.
Terminal day. That's interesting. That's really cool. That is really actually, that's awesome, man. So how can people, if you have 251 episodes, then you've got like tons of content that would help my listeners or anybody that's wanting to live a more abundant life, even females, right?
Yeah.
How do people reach you? How do they find the show? What's the best way for people to either connect with you for coaching or connect with you to hear your content?
Yeah, the best way is just to go to menofabundance.com, or if you're already a podcast listener, which I'm assuming you are, just listen on any one of your, whatever your favorite podcast player is. Just search Men of Abundance and you'll find it right there. And I don't know if you want to share this with the folks, but I was just introduced to a brand new podcast player. And I met the CEO, one of the guys that created this app, and it is called Podcoin. And this podcast player actually pays you to listen to podcasts.
What?
And it gives you like little Starbucks cards, and if you accumulate enough points, they have actually like, Bose headphones, and you can get Amazon Cash, Amazon card, and you just listen. And if you want to do that, and I was just having a conversation with these guys today. I just found my podcast on Podcoin. And since they did that, they gave me like a little code. So if you put abundance when you go download the app, you'll automatically get 300 Podcoin. I don't get anything from that. It doesn't do anything for me necessarily. Maybe rank my show a little bit, but it's an amazing podcast.
I've never heard of this. So you go,
and listen, as a podcast player, as a podcaster, it's got stats that are unbelievable. Because
Really?
I can see everybody, I get a picture and see everybody who subscribes or listens. And they got some more features that are coming out here pretty soon, but it's really neat.
That is neat. So Podcoin, they can download the app or use whatever their favorite app is on their Android phone or iTunes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So on the iPhone podcast app, on Android, you can do Stitcher or Castbox or this new Podcoin and actually earn some Starbucks cards or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure they could look you up. Are you menofabundance.com? Is that your website?
menofabundance.com. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And then, so that's for Wally. For me, if you guys, some of you are already clients, you're already getting that steady income or you're set up to get it. If you're not set up to have an abundant income, to have a military pension-like paycheck coming in, that's only part of a financial plan. But man, is it an important part if you want to live a life of abundance and just relax and do the things you love to do. Just get in touch. info@l5wealth.com. info@l5wealth.com. And then Wally, unless there's anything you want to say in closing, we'll sign off here.
I just greatly appreciate the opportunity, man. It's great to reconnect with you. I've had a blast. Always do whenever we get connected. And I just look forward to hearing from any of your listeners, seeing what they thought about the conversation.
We've come a long way. When we met, we were newborns. We're at least toddlers now in the podcast industry.
At the very least, man.
Thanks so much for being on the show, man.
Absolutely.
All right, see you, bud.
Renovating Retirement with Charlie Jewett.
But that's all, folks.